Welcome everyone. This is our 15th year as a meetup, doing Python Meetup here in Indianapolis. I consider us some of the old school, awesome folks here in the community. And what I'm super excited about is there are some of the regulars back in the room. Not some of the OG regulars. You probably saw some of the slideshow go by, and I've not seen some of those folks, but we have some of the OG regulars who, you've joined us for the speakeasy. Actually, who in here came when we were in the boardroom at Scotty's? Anybody from the Scotty's era? I know so I'm technically the co-founder. Clayton, my brother, is also a co-founder. He's at a kickball tournament right now, I think. So next time you see Clayton, give him a super hard time for not being here for his 15-year birthday for this. So yeah, we have been through a lot, including a couple years of not meeting in person, and I want to change that. And so we're going to talk about that as well. I'm excited to be back in person. We have a plethora of door prizes tonight. So please make sure that you are registered. Yeah, turn that back on. There we go. Please make sure you're registered on meetingplace.io. If you've not RSVP'd on meetingplace.io, please RSVP on there, and I will be doing the normal live code drawing from the Meetingplace RSVPs. And we've got Meow Bits, we've got some Pi badges, we've got Pi badge edges, which is the new TensorFlow Lite Pi badge embedded one. We've got all kinds of giveaways. There's tons of free swag at the back. And Ari, who's on, you can see Ari. Ari, wave. Everyone can see you. There you go. Ari from JFrog is giving away a 3D printer tonight. So we'll get to him in a moment. Ooh. So I'm glad you all showed up. Must be present to win, whether you're online or here in the room. It's totally awesome. And again, super excited you're all here. I haven't even started the slideshow yet. I gotta find the slideshow.
Calvin, I'll throw in some Talk Python courses if you want.
Oh yeah, nice. So Michael Kennedy, that's the voice you just heard there, is kicking in a little extra. So pretty excited about this. This is super awesome. Let me find, there we go. To help bridge that gap between virtual and in-person, we are using Slido tonight. You can just go to slido.com or slide.do and put in IndyPy as the event tag tonight. And that'll be how I want everyone to ask Michael and I questions as we do the main presentation today. I will put the Slido up on one of these screens, so you'll be able to see all the questions coming in real time from virtual and in-person folks. So I'm hoping to make sure we kind of level that playing field. So make sure you go and either go to the Slido address there. It's like bit.ly/IndyPy15 Slido, or if you just go to Slido and put in the event tag IndyPy, that will take you to the spot where we're going to have some polls. We're going to have some questions. There's going to be some fun stuff coming up. Actually, I'll go ahead. Is everyone getting it installed? Got their phones? Especially those people online. I've got some questions that I'm going to put up on here for you. Actually, I don't know why that turned off to, which computer is that? Here we go. Yeah, we're going to have, so go to the Slido. We're going to have our first poll. I'm going to put our first poll up on Slido, which is going to be, when did you join IndyPy? Let me throw that up on some screen, someplace. Hold on. Nope, not that one. Must be this one. Nope. Oh, here we go. Yeah, it's this one. There we go. So I have the Slido up there. Let me turn that off so everyone can see it. Yeah, when did you join IndyPy? I kind of gave a range of time frames in there. You can hit the QR code up there, and it should take you right to this specific poll. This is your first meeting. Do you still get cake? Oh yeah, by the way, there's cake tonight. And if you didn't know, JetBrains is picking up the tab for all the drinks. So thanks to them for hanging out with us. Now, my favorite stat on this whole chart right now is that this is my first IndyPy meetup. I swear to you up and down, every meeting we've had a new person, and I consider that to be a great thing, that people are coming out and hanging out. Actually, first time people in the room, raise your hand. Oh, David Glick, nice. Look at that, look at all these first timers, that's awesome. They do, you're here. You're here with us. We're all good now, awesome. So that's our first poll up there. We will be live tweeting tonight. So if you are on Twitter, virtual or in person, use the IndyPy hashtag or just at IndyPy. Also, if you have IndyPy memories in your photo album someplace, there's actually a ton of them on the meetup.com site. But feel free to post those on Twitter as well and use the IndyPy memories hashtag. And we'll make sure we gather those all together for our 20th anniversary birthday. We'll definitely make sure we do that as well. Let me.
Alvin, I think we're seeing we're still seeing the slide, so you may want to go back to the slide
I'm going. Let me.
Oh man, perfect.
That was my next. Wrong. I got way too many computers going on up here. Here we go.
Here we go.
Back in slide mode here. Turn that on so you can see me. Okay, yeah. Oh, wait, that's the rotating slideshow. Nope, wrong one. There we go. This computer. For those of you who don't know, it's a ridiculous AV mess up here, but I'm managing it somehow, trying with grace. So yeah, there is the Twitter hashtag. Make sure you follow us for all things Python here in Indy and all upcoming events that we'll be doing. There is the IndyPy Memories hashtag. So you probably saw the slideshow as we were coming in, some of the photos from over the years. The very top left-hand photo there is our initial original meeting. That's like my brother, another actually all of us worked at 6 Feet Up. It was just a meeting of 6 Feet Up people in a place other than 6 Feet Up. But it counted as a meetup, right? That was like early days of IndyPy and memories. So this all wouldn't be possible, obviously, without our awesome sponsors. So we're gonna get into that right now. We're gonna talk about our sponsorship. My name is Calvin Hendryx-Parker. For those of you who are new, since there are new people in the room, I am co-founder and CTO of 6 Feet Up, and IndyPy is organized by 6 Feet Up, and 6 Feet Up is a Python and I'm going to read this off the thing because that's what I do. Gotta like dodge people from flying by me as well. We are a Python and cloud expert consulting company that helps innovative tech leaders build apps faster, innovate with AI and ML, simplify big data, and leverage cloud technologies using modern process technologies and processes. And Laura will love this. We make anything possible. And we're excited to make IndyPy possible. And I'm super excited to have you all here. Next up, we have JetBrains. So a big round of applause for JetBrains. Not only are they buying all the drinks, they also are doing what we got. How many Laura, how many PyCharm licenses are we giving away? 2 or 4?
We're giving away 4 full-time ones, and then there will be another giveaway with every single person gets a free 6 months.
Yes, there's a free 6 months for every single person in the room, in addition to 4 full PyCharm professional licenses that'll be given away. So thank you, JetBrains, for being awesome to the Python community and to just being really great people in general. I want to thank Reify Health. They're one of our newest sponsors. Well, newest, it's been over a year now. They actually renewed. Is Jeff here? Yep. I don't think did Jeff show up on virtual?
No, Jeff is not here.
Oh, that's a bummer.
I know.
Okay. Well, if you see Jeff from Reify Health, he's here local in Indianapolis. They are hiring and they're like, obviously, so my 14-year-old needs to stop using electronics right now. Let me block him. That's what that alarm was for. And now JFrog has been a sponsor now for going on 3 years, I think, at least, right, Ari?
Hey, everybody. I'm Ari Waller. I'm the Meetup event manager for JFrog. And it's been so awesome being an IndyPy partner going on our 3rd year. Normally, I share a short intro about who we are and how JFrog is the DevOps software company with our flagship product Artifactory, which works seamlessly with PyPy and allows Python developers to deploy software fast and efficiently. But you know what? Tonight, I'm not going to do that. Tonight,
all right.
I want to talk about how awesome it has been to really be part of the IndyPy community. Let's just quickly rewind. Just even 2 years ago, I know many of you have been here a lot longer than that based on that poll, but just 2 years ago, when the pandemic first started and people were just feeling their way online, and I remember how incredible of an experience it was the first time this community meetup started. It was more than just the great talks and the door prizes. It was something that I learned over the next few IndyPy meetings I came to, is that what was able to really transcend into a virtual environment was your community's authentic personality really shined through, and it felt like home. It became quickly clear that IndyPy, the community that's been built here, is really, really special. And I'm a meetup event manager. I actually have that in my title. I do this for a living. I've sat in hundreds of meetups, literally, over the last few years. And I am here not blowing any smoke. IndyPy is very, very special. Calvin, while I know there are a lot of people that help make this meetup happen, your commitment to the community has really been made a positive difference in so many people's lives. Here we have just a sample of that, but 15 years of commitment, 15 years of good times and maybe some tougher times, and 15 years of both a lot of time and a lot of money. So a community of Python professionals can grow and learn in a caring and accepting environment. There's a lot to be said for that. And I don't know, everyone seems to have a drink tonight. I have mine. Maybe we can lift our glasses really quick. And Calvin, this drink's for you. And just thank you for everything that you do for the community.
Thank you, Ari. You're gonna make me cry, damn it. Stop that.
Well, I don't want to make that happen. So tonight we're actually going to do a raffle for a 3D printer. If you haven't done 3D printing before, this is the perfect entry level to that. You can enter with the QR code that you see and the bit.ly link that you can see, which should be pretty easy to remember. It is case sensitive. And we are definitely excited to be giving one of these away. Now, I work for a big company. We have a compliance department. We have people on the internet and in person. I can't give it away live as much as I would like to tonight. However, you have my commitment that a winner is going to be selected randomly within 3 business days. That winner is going to be contacted. And once they formally accept the prize, I am going to make sure that everyone knows who that lucky winner is for the 3D printer. But very, very excited to be part of this. Thank you so much, Calvin and team, Laura, and everyone that really makes the community so special for everything that you do.
Thank you, Ari. So everybody, make sure you scan that code, and you will be in the running for a 3D printer, literally giving away tonight. Like, this is just for IndyPy. Like, it's only us.
Yeah, only you, I promise.
Only the people in this room and only people in that Zoom are eligible for this printer. So don't pass up this awesome opportunity. This is the first of many fabulous prizes this evening. And thank you, Ari, and the JetBrains crew, or not JetBrains, good Lord, sorry, and the JFrog crew, JFrog.
We like JetBrains too, it's cool.
Yeah, they're good people. But no, thank you, JetFrog. There we go. I'm just gonna call it JetFrog at this point. No, to JFrog for being a part of the IndyPy community and everything we're doing here. So I really appreciate that, and thank you so much for being with us.
Pleasure.
Oh yeah. Actually, we do have the JFrog book that you gave us. We had some extras left over from Python Web Conference. So there is a book on the table from Liquid Software. So make sure you pick up your copy of Liquid Software. It is on the table. Those are free to take for anybody in the room. And thanks again to JFrog for that. If you all want to be as awesome as JFrog, JetBrains, Reify Health, and 6 Feet Up, you can become a sponsor. I know it's kind of blocked right now, but you can email Laura at 6 Feet Up, who is just right there. There's Laura right there. Or you can just go to indypy.org/become a sponsor, and we will get you all signed up to help build this awesome community even further beyond what we have already done. We normally would go around the rooms, plural, I guess, Zoom room and physical room, but that would take a long time, and we're not going to do that tonight. So make sure you join the IndyPy Slack. There is a bit.ly link there for joining the IndyPy Slack, and go into the jobs channel. We would love to know people who are looking for a new career change, or if you're hiring, please go in there. And so many great connections have happened through IndyPy. Actually, people in the room, people online, raise your hand if you found a job because of IndyPy, or if you found an employee because of IndyPy. I know there's multiple folks who have definitely benefited from the IndyPy community, and I want to make sure that continues as well. Okay, what's that? Yes, actually, you're not the only one either. There have been multiple relationships have come out of the IndyPy community as well, other than just a career opportunity. So you never know. I mean, it can happen. It has happened, which is kind of crazy. Make sure you are RSVP'd now on meetingplace.io. We are obviously moved off of meetup.com. If you want to be in the running for all the rest of the fabulous prizes this evening, quickly get out there and RSVP onto meetingplace.io for today's meeting. And when I go do the random drawing, it'll be from the RSVPs that are on there. You have until the end of the official presentation to RSVP to be in the running for all the rest of the prizes that are up there. And I will do that live code afterwards. Also, right after the main, like Michael and I doing our little like song and dance up here, we will, Darcy, raise your hand here. So Darcy Lee is in the room. She's with 6 Feet Up now, and it's going to be doing some quick little video testimonials. We'll find her, and you can actually like, just tell everyone like what you thought about of the IndyPy community and what brought you here and how things are going. So look for Darcy after us all speaking. So speaking of that, I think we're ready to get on with the actual scheduled program. It won't be super technical tonight, but I am actually interested in hearing and talking to people about the effects of like going virtual and like the hybrid meetup and how the world's gonna kind of change from here on out. So I brought Michael Kennedy. I'm gonna spotlight your video up there. Actually, before we get started, I got one more poll that I want to do. So mostly this is for this is for folks who are on the virtual space. So everyone who is in the virtual meeting, go to the Slido right now and tell us where you're at. I want to hear where everyone's at. So you should see the QR code up there. You should be able to actually go and tell us where you are at. So we got San Diego's in the house. We got Portland in the house. Obviously Indianapolis is in the house because we're all sitting literally in the house. Oh, thank you for someone putting Indianapolis in there. Lafayette, Lauderdale by the Sea. We got Chicago. Someone's actually in the district tap. That's crazy. We never expected that. Boston, Atlanta. Come on, David Soul, you got to register your vote in there. There we go. Now they're all starting to show up. Look at that. This is awesome. There are people from all over the world who are literally gathering tonight for IndyPy, our little old meetup. And I'm excited to have everyone here who's not just always in the same room together. So now we're trying to bridge that gap and get everything going here. All right, I'm going to turn off that poll. We're going to go back to regular questions do I have to start answering these now? Is that like what starts this whole thing? Does it count how many YubiKeys or how many two-factor hardware devices do I own?
You'll never stop counting then.
Okay, so the topic tonight is really around meetups in the community. And so I brought Michael on because I've really been enjoying everything he's been doing around the Talk Python to Me and the Python Bytes podcast and all of the efforts he has done in the Python community to train people up. And it felt like it's a good matchup here for IndyPy and the fact that we have been trying to also bring a community of people together. And so I would love to, Michael, I'd love you to introduce yourself real quick. And I want to hear your Python origin story. How did you become one of us?
Hello, everybody. How did I become one of you? Amazing. I'll start with just my quick introduction. So hi, I'm Michael. I've given a couple of talks here over the past couple of years. I've spoken at Python WebConf, as I think about most of the other world has, given how many tracks you all managed to put together at the same time there, which is fantastic. By the way, I'm to some degree a temporary local. I was in the PhD program at Purdue for a while, so up in West Lafayette. I know it's not quite IndyPy, but if you go north a tad,
Close.
Yeah, closer than Portland, where I am now.
That is true.
All right, so origin story. Actually, before I go on, I just want to say one more thing, Calvin and Lauren and folks, that we just had the Python WebConf. We just had PyCon, and I was going through looking for interesting topics for things to cover on the podcast and other things to just check out and watch. And I got more interesting content from the Python WebConf than I did from all the PyCon talks combined.
Wow.
So
Thank you.
Like, that was really, really a good resource for everyone out there. And Like genuinely, like why is this list so much longer from the work that you all did? So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I love doing these things for the community. I love bringing these people together. So this is that's perfect. That's what I wanted.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So to answer your question, origin story, I thought I should become a mathematician. So hence why I was at Purdue. And that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, but I started getting into like simulations and research and all sorts of stuff with programming to like do more math. And I had this weird feeling. I was working on this project with Silicon Graphics mainframes and whatnot. And there was parts that were really, really fun. There were parts like, this is not so fun. Like it turned out the math parts were the not so fun. I'm like, what am I doing math for? Why did I go do these computers? So long story short, I did programming for, oh my goodness, many years, since late 90s, really. And around 2010, maybe a little bit before 2008, 2009, I saw Python becoming more and more popular, and I had traditionally done C++, C, C#, those types of languages. And I'm like, this is such a weird language. Let me check it out. And I was hooked as soon as I saw it. At first I was like blown away. Like, how can you have no semicolons and no brackets, parentheses to keep this thing in control? But after about a week, I went back to those other C-based languages. I'm like, they've lied to me. What are all these parentheses and curly braces? We didn't need them. They told me I needed them. Like, and it's such a breath of fresh air. And ever since then, it's been sort of my mission to just get really good at it. I wanted to listen to the podcasts about it and hear the stories. When I was getting started, there was no podcasts at the time. So I'm like, well, I guess I'm gonna have to do that and try my hand at podcasting. And so that is pretty much all she wrote since then.
That's awesome. So when was your first PyCon you went to?
My first PyCon was either 2015 or 2016, probably 2016.
2016 would have been Portland.
First Portland.
Yeah.
Well, you would think it's in my backyard, which is where I live. I was spending a year in Germany with my family. So I had to fly back and rent a hotel in Portland and then fly all the way back to Germany because I had rented my house for the year while I was gone. So I had traveled very far to come to the first PyCon right by my house.
I think that speaks volumes to the dedication of people who will seek out the Python community. That you would travel back from Germany back to Portland to come to PyCon for your first PyCon. And I don't know if many folks here who've experienced the Python conferences. Some of my favorite Python conferences are actually early PyCons. PyCon's always a classic, but the regional conferences have been a favorite of mine as well. The Pythonistas, the PyOhios, the PyColorados, the PyGotham. These are all amazing, like local, but they bring in folks who will travel to them. So I mean, obviously, I've been to most of those events, and I find it more intimate. Like, have you been to many of the regional conferences?
I have been to some of them. I would love to go to more. I very much enjoy PyCascades, which is that's the one I've Vancouver, BC, Seattle, Portland one, and it cycles through the different cities and stuff there. So yeah, that's a good one.
So do you have any experience with programming language conferences outside of Python?
Sure. I used to do a ton of C# .NET stuff. So I would go to conference like IndyC and Oslo or other ones in London and stuff.
Would it be unfair for me to ask you? I was going to say, would it be fair to kind of ask you to compare and contrast like what those communities are like compared to the Python community?
No, it's really different. The community for the Python-based ones, PyCon, and the regional ones, it feels much more by, for, and from the people, like the community. Whereas you go to these other ones, and it feels very much like, well, here's the vendor of this. Think a Microsoft build. Well, what is the story that Microsoft wants its people to tell you? Or WWDC or Google I/O or any of those types of things, they may be somewhat, like IndyC might be more formed from people who are in that group, but there's like this sort of, here's the story that we're telling. And with the Python ones, you go there and you just get this really different feeling of we're all in this together. We're just trying a bunch of crazy stuff, and somehow we become the most popular programming language in the world. And look, it's working. You let 1,000 flowers bloom, and some of them grow pretty strong and tall.
Yeah, I would agree with that sentiment about being, for the people and by the people. That these conferences are definitely community run. There's not a big corporate entity behind the language, and there never has been. I felt like Python grew in popularity and almost in spite of itself. Like it was never attempting to be a popular language, but it was one that so many people loved and like flocked to and were more productive with. That it just those same people now all of a sudden got together in the same room together and celebrated that language and learned from each other, through all the various, sessions. So,
Yeah, and Calvin, I would say that many people in the community felt that way, but even Guido was surprised at some of these things. I asked him why he thought the Python 2 to 3 transition was so hard. And he said, well, it's the packages that people depended upon. But what we really misjudged was how many people depended upon Python as it, like they just didn't realize how important in the scale of it, which, if Guido's not going to be able to guess, like we're definitely not going to guess, right?
Yeah, if you've ever run into Guido on the PyCon Expo Hall floor, he's a very humble person, like very unsuspecting. And he's always said that same thing, that he never intended for this to be the language for the world to use. It was the one he built that made sense in his brain, based on how he thought programming should be done, which I guess somehow I agree with him on that, but you'd have to know Guido, I think, to kind of get that.
Yeah.
Don't forget.
Can I give you one more compare and contrast? I think
please,
I think it'll be fair. So when we were living in Germany, I had this chance to speak at this conference in London, and it was mostly sort of .NET shop type of conference, but my topic was trying to recruit people over to Python. So it was like Python for the .NET developer type of presentation. And I went over there and I had this chance to bring one of my daughters, who was 15 or 16 at the time, along because she had school break. And so like, hey, it's just London. It's not that far. We'll take the train. We'll make a week of it. We'll have a lot of fun. And so we went to the speaker dinner. At the speaker dinner, there were 29 guys and one girl there who were the speakers. Yeah. And she was all excited to come. And then she looked around and she said, Dad, where are all the girls? I said, that's a really good question. And I don't know really how to appropriately answer that for you. But you could just tell she was like, oh, this might not be for me. And I think if I had taken her to a PyCon, she wouldn't have felt that way.
Yeah. The landscape changed when it came to speakers at conferences for the Python community around the Santa Clara conference. There was an incident then, the kind of the Donglegate community thing, that I think shifted that pendulum back toward we really want to encourage those who may not normally step up and want to be speaking behind the podium to be a part of this community. And actually, IndyPy, we can always do better, but I've been pretty proud of the fact that we've had a good number of, underrepresented groups, or, we're not going for equality here, because that's still our goal, but we've had a lot of great speakers, who don't look like me, which is what I want. I don't want only people who look like me up here, talking and speaking at IndyPy. And so I think the Python community has made a very intentional effort to obviously take inclusivity to this next level. It was definitely a knee-jerk reaction. I don't know if you remember that back from it was kind of before you, because that was in Santa Clara. But it worked, I felt like, in the Python community. Like we had a rough year or two in there, but then I feel like the folks stood up and actually started speaking who maybe not have before. And so I find Python not only to be approachable as a language, but to be very approachable as a community.
Right. And I think a big part of that, I know there's a conscious effort to encourage people who are not normally presenting to do so, but I think that there's also a good uptake for that, because most people in the community are very welcoming and very open and kind. And that makes it easier to put yourself out. Yeah. When you might not otherwise do it. Yeah.
Yeah. For those of you who are, brand new to the Python community, at a PyCon or regional conference or even an IndyPy, I think everyone's fair game to walk up to and ask any question at all. There's no silly questions in the community, and everyone is actually excited to get those questions. So if you are new, don't hesitate to ask anybody else in the whole room who may look like they might know something. If they don't know it, they're going to find somebody who does and point you in that right direction. That's the thing I love about the community. Don't forget to ask us questions up on the Slido from the virtual community or in the in-person room. That's how we'll be doing mainly for the questions. The next thing I want to talk about, though, is where do we see meetups and the social community of people meeting on the regular, like the monthly type meetup? I mean, we just spent 2.5 years in a virtual only world. I can't say I was super pleased. We started out obviously strong, 75 people were coming to the virtual meetup month 1. By month 28, we were probably about 10 to 12 people. I think the appetite for virtual only meetings, even ours, which is, I think we do a pretty good job, as Ari kind of alluded to, because Ari has never actually been in person for our meetings. He's only ever come to the virtual version of IndyPy. Michael, where do we see the world going right now? Are we heading back into in-person? Is that changing? Are we trying to satisfy hybrid? I'll let you go first. I've got some things to say on this.
Sure. I'm torn. Where do I want it to go, or where do I see it going?
Yeah,
Are these?
let's hit
these are,
both those. Yeah, let's hit both those.
Sure. Yeah. Let's talk about both of those. So, I would say, we just had PyCon in person, which, well, first of all, congratulations to everyone at the PSF and involved. They had PyCon in person, and that was fantastic. However, I think it was less than half the people attended.
They limited it to 1,800 people, which was less than half what we had in Cleveland.
Yeah, so there's an impact, right? There is an impact of getting back together, and I think there's a lot of reasons for that, right? Like flights are insanely expensive and all sorts of stuff, but also, we've realized to some degree that even if we don't necessarily like it, we can survive through a whole ton of Zoom calls. And so I think that makes people have different trade-offs. I personally really wanted to go back to PyCon, but I didn't go because I just wanted to have 1 year of a big conference and make sure everyone's safe and see how it goes. And I'll figure it out from there. But
you weren't there.
I know. I was so, but the thing is, I saw here's the thing about the community is, right? Like, you can go and see the talks, but then I started getting the text messages. Hey, we're meeting at this bar, or hey, we're hiking this mountain. You want to come? No, I'm not there. I would love, why am I not there? So it is tough. I do think that we're getting back to it, but I don't think we're going all the way back. I think there were many people who said, I don't believe you can do remote hybrid types of things. And then we were forced to. And so to some degree, we've seen that it's possible, if not as good. So I don't know. I don't think we're going all the way back, but I would like it to be back. I really enjoyed those events.
Yeah. No, I share that opinion that I would love I want us all to be back 100%. My main holdup on the hybrid version of this is we've gained a whole community of people who are on the Zoom out here. So it's like there's a whole new group of people who now are part of IndyPy, who are regularly here. And I want to make sure we include them, because I feel like that they are our new community. Like, IndyPy is not just Indy. It's hardly even the Midwest anymore. It's really a global thing. When the pandemic started, and we had people joining from East Coast and West Coast, and from North Africa, and from Europe, and from Mexico. I mean, from all over, from South America. I was floored that people, first of all, found Indiana on any map, and we're like, okay, there's Python in Indiana, and they're here. So I feel like I have a duty to make IndyPy somehow accessible to both audiences. And it's not easy to do this. We are doing a fully hybrid, one speaker in the room, one speaker not in the room event, but as people can kind of see what's going on here, like it is not a simple setup to make this work. So I don't know if there's going to be some new technology that can kind of come out through all this that can help meetups bridge this gap somehow. Because I went to extraordinary efforts, I think, to make sure we could have it here tonight. And I really wanted the people who are online, which I love seeing their smiling faces. I feel like they are here with us. Like, I've never met David Soul in person, and I cannot wait And here he is, like sitting there in a Python web conference jersey, smiling all the way from Mexico City. I'm like, this is like, he's our people. Like, he's not in Indiana, but he's right out there as part of our community. So I want both. I'm going to work hard to make both happen. I don't know if there's some open source projects that can kind of come from this, or hardware type things. It's ridiculous what's going on over here beside me.
Maybe you guys can build some Python automation Raspberry Pi thing to create a hybrid setup in a box.
I have a video switcher on my iPad that I'm using to control the two different screens that are going on in the room, so that everybody can like see everybody else going on here. So I just think that the communities are worth it. It's worth getting this group who's remote to be part of it, and also the availability of speakers, like the fact that Michael didn't have to travel here. But it can still be, joining. They had a social going on while we were all socializing in here. And I just thought we had you guys up on the screen so we could see, kind of the Brady Bunch view of that. And it was cool, like knowing that there's another group over there who's just kind of chatting like the other group over here.
Yeah, and we had a nice little chat for 15 minutes while you all were setting up. It was good.
Yeah, so I think it's definitely doable. I think that right now it's baling wire and shoestrings and duct tape, but I think it's going to get better. And I think conferences can do a better job at this as well. They've already got like AV teams, recording the talks that are happening up on the screens, but they do zero to bridge that gap of people who are virtual into the real room. Like even from the Slido is a huge, I think, innovation standpoint that people who are outside this room and people inside this room are asking questions at that same level. So that's where I think that the conference venues, I think the venues probably should tackle this problem. They've got the infrastructure. They've got the ability to put in place, tools for, but we shouldn't be professional AV technicians to be able to run a meetup like this. So I think that's coming. I think that's definitely coming. So there's a question. There's a couple questions up here. I don't know if we want to like tackle those, or do you have another comment there, Mike?
I have a quick comment on what you just said, and then let's tackle this. One, you talked about Slido and the polls and the Q&A and all those sorts of things. Even for just a somewhat large in-person meetup, like the fact that you're adopting these types of things can make it better. There might be somebody in the back who doesn't want to interrupt, but has the best question of the night. Right. And they could put it into this Q&A thing, or the polls, or people raise their hand, you kind of get a vague sense, but then you get really more precise. Like you can participate as a group, even in person, better by leveraging some of these tools that just also happen to facilitate remote.
No, I agree. It's so true that so many times the best question in the room may not be asked because they're not willing to kind of raise their voice for it, but they're willing to type it in a Slido. And so you'll get
especially anonymous listed up there, right? That you don't have to take ownership.
This anonymous person's very prolific with their question asking.
The other thing I wanted to just second was your comment about like David from Mexico City, me from Portland, and people just from around the world. There's Indianapolis it's a pretty big city. There's a lot going on there. There are a lot of places where people are Python developers of a community of one. Right. And they have no one to exchange ideas with, no one to exchange inspiration with, to get mentorship from, or to be a mentor for. They're just in their own space. And I've heard stories over and over. I work in a small town in Vermont. I'm the only one who does Python that I know. And, how do I connect, right? Or I got a really nice message from a guy in Africa saying, your podcast has been the Python community for me. I take you on walks, and I have no one else to be part of. And so even though it's really nice to have it in person, there's also something special about making that space for everyone who is got a community of one.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's just, again, the fact that you have been the whole community for some people through your podcasts is, a great dedication to bringing us all together, even if it's like almost a one-on-one, but you're, being able to publish a podcast so easily to connect with those other human beings.
It's honestly a little nerve-wracking. Like I shouldn't be the only representative, but it's great. I have other people on, so I can bring that in. But it is really humbling and quite amazing. So yeah. All
right.
Let's tackle.
Yeah. First one up here is future venues for IndyPy in-person meetups. Right now, what we are planning to try and do is going to be at least once a quarter in-person meetup, and the other three being other two being a virtual meetup. So there'll still be plenty of virtual meetups, but then I'll put the extra effort in for that once a quarter. Talking about doing it right now at the IoT lab up in Fishers. So I've been talking with those folks. They've got a nice space. They've got a good connection. They can accommodate my crazy stuff. And so I think IoT lab may be our spot for the next quarterly in-person meeting. And we'll just kind of take it as it goes. There's a lot of effort into making an in-person version of this go, and even more effort making the fully hybrid version. Before pandemic, the IndyPy and the Indy AWS communities, we were live streaming what was going on in the room, but it was all one way. There was no two-way. We didn't have the ability for people on the outside to ask questions. We didn't have the ability for the presenters and the speakers. Even we could do a panel like this. We could have a couple people in the room, a couple people on the screen. I think this is the new way I want to be able to do this, is to have this truly hybrid experience where there may be networking there and networking here, but then when we get together, there's an experience where everyone is in the same space, I'll call it. So that is the future venue ideas right now for IndyPy meetings. Tips for hybrid meetings to go well. Oh my gosh. I've heard some, so right now, like for example, this seems not specific necessarily to just IndyPy, but just in general for meetings in your company. We've gone all remote. And so all of our meetings are, by definition, all virtual. Although I think that there is a difficulty when you've got people who are in a room and people who are outside the room in those types of meetings, that the people outside the room are rarely heard, or it's hard for them to interject. I mean, yeah, it goes both ways because there's a timing issue, I think, with this virtual space versus the in-person space. Oh, here, hold on, wait. You need to, whoa.
Yeah, the one thing we found really helpful is the type of USB speaker or phone setup that's like the older type meeting room speaker phones.
Yeah.
So if you have 8 or 10 people around a table with that type of speakerphone feeding into Zoom or whatever, then it can feed out, what they're talking about, and that integrates it together pretty well.
Yeah, no, I would 100% agree. Yeah, if you want to speak in either space, if you're online virtual, you're fully welcome to unmute and comment on this as well. If you're in the room, I'll ask that you use the microphone so that the online people can hear you. Right now, they only hear me because I'm the only one speaking. But if you use this, they will hear you and will help bridge that gap. But it's hard. It is not an easy thing because of that. I think there's such a face-to-face 3D aspect to this. Like Michael's very 2D to me right now. Okay, sorry, you're very 2D. But you all are very 3D to me, and so I obviously feel as a human connected to the people who are right next to me. So everyone in the room has to make an extra effort for those who are not. And I think that goes for the meetups as well as like in-person meetings. So I think to do this kind of a hybrid, Python meetup, we have to be able to make sure that folks in the room are asking questions on Slido. They're not just like blurting it out, because that gives an unfair advantage to them versus people who are on the virtual side of things.
Can I add one quick thing that I know that you'll connect with, Calvin? I think it's really important that people have a decent, not fantastic, but a decent video and audio setup if they're going to be remote.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Like if you're just a scratchy person, I can barely hear you, and it's really quiet. And if it's draining and exhausting to try to listen to somebody, I think it's really hard. And so, I feel like I feel very dressed up for our presentations today. I have an old Mozilla shirt on, but I have lights and I'm in focus, and it probably sounds good if I got the right mic set up. I think that's a new sort of, I'm prepared for work to be here professionally. That wasn't there 5 years ago.
More important than the video is the audio.
Yes.
You better nail your audio before you ever worry about any video. Use the oldest, crappiest Logitech webcam but get a reasonable microphone that fits your situation. If you've got background noise, you're getting a different mic than if you don't have background noise. Like there's all kinds of choices to make there, but even if you just have the Apple like old school wired headphones, with the microphone on them, they're actually really good. You will sound very clear to people, and that's what matters. Is if you are heard and you are clear, that makes all the difference, even over being seen. Obviously, visuals are nice, but I'm going to go out there and say that audio is the most important part of this equation.
Totally agree.
Yeah. All right. Now, the most important question tonight, Drew Shepard is asking for a friend. Thanks for asking questions in the room on the Slido, because that's awesome. How do we bridge the gap of the open bar for folks at home? Because we obviously are enjoying drinks thanks to JetBrains. But the David Souls got the idea right there. He obviously JetBrains didn't buy that drink for him, but I don't know. I'm open to suggestions. I would love to understand a better way to make that happen. So the comment in the room was drink prices versus gas prices. None of you had to drive anywhere to get here, so obviously you could buy your own drink for that one. I don't know. Michael, you got any suggestions? Actually, anyone in the crowd got any suggestions on the open bar, bridging the open bar gap?
And that's like the milling around, just chatting.
The what? Sorry, I missed that one.
Is that like milling around, just chatting, like sort of the small talk? Is that what you mean?
I think it might be just actual drinks. We're
that I can solve.
Yeah, I guess someone needs an app where you can just quickly buy someone else a drink. And be like, you're at a bar, like I know you're there, but I can send a message to the bar that your drink shows up. Yeah, I don't know how to solve. So that other problem though is how do we solve the milling around and chatting problem? I don't know. That's why I kind of kept the networking separate to start with. Like there would be milling around and chatting in here and milling around and chatting over there. There's been things pitched like, maybe we need a little phone booth where people can kind of go in and like quickly jump onto the Zoom and if they wanted to see anybody who was there, but I don't know what kind of uptake realistically we would have for that. It just seems a lot of overhead. Someone had to think about doing it. Another thing to set up to do. So for now, I'm going to make sure we chat here, you chat there, we all come together. And we all
my experience with the group that before we had a really nice chat and it was lots of people talking. It was a lot of fun. I don't think it would have gone so well if we tried to like mix that with the audience.
That's why I didn't even join the audio from in the room while you guys were chatting, because it would have been chaos. Chaos would have been absolutely ensued. The next question, actually, that's more of a comment, and I 100% agree. It is so weird hearing Michael's voice at 1x speed. Like I really feel like I need to be able to hit the 2x button here somehow, because you don't sound right to me right now.
Calvin, why do you think it's weird that I talk so slow?
That's much better. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Thank you, Michael, for accommodating us podcast listeners who listen at 2x speed.
No problem.
Okay. Taking volunteers for help or A/B setting it up in-person meetups. This would be wonderful, but I feel like there needs to be an apprenticeship program that comes along with this, because there's just like a lot of knowledge that kind of had gone into building all this AV kit, and I would love help. Absolutely. If anyone's willing to want to be an apprentice, this is more for the in-person folks who are in the room, but you're more than just kind of being a roadie and schlepping stuff in. What's that? We're having a meeting up to discuss how to do a hybrid meeting. We are.
It's very meta.
That's a very meta question. When is the meetup about how to do a hybrid meetup is about what we should be discussing. And we'll be hybrid. I honestly think, yeah, we should talk about this more, because I think if we could build a standardized small kit, and I know Aaron brought that up just now. I would love to build a small portable kit, and you talked about doing something even battery powered, which would be amazing, because just being able to pull in and like drop something on the ground and just hook up a couple of little sources and be done would be awesome. This involved, a GoPro, a mirrorless camera, two outputs from my video mixer that are going up into both spots, I would love to make this the most simple version of it possible that still gets the same impact of people being in the room. So yeah, we need to do a virtual hybrid meetup for us then. I mean, I don't know. I mean, in Michael, and have you gone to any in-person meetups in Portland?
Yeah, I haven't. Actually, Brian and Akin and I ran the Python West meetup sadly only for like 6 months before COVID hit, but yeah. And then I've gone to the main, there's a larger, older one downtown, and there's been some other ones.
I used to know a couple of the Pdx folks, but have they done anything special for those who are not in the room?
They probably did after COVID, but not before.
Yeah. Kind of.
Not that I know of.
What I expected. The next question up there was 2D or not 2D. That is the question. More of a comment, not a question. Sorry. Next, it's going to be, how do you convince your company to pay for all this new gear? Oh, who asked that? It says anonymous up there. Is my CEO in the room? Where is she at?
I was gonna say it's Gabrielle. It's like, hey, yeah, I want to know.
Is she online? Where's she at? This has been a slow building process. It's just the same way you boil a frog, right? You just turn the temperature up very, very slowly so that you can get all the things you want.
I think the question was more along the lines that you said audio is really important on this stuff.
Yeah.
For remote people.
Yes. Oh. So what? Who pays for that?
Sounds like you're wanting to raise.
Oh. No, if you're gonna talk in the room, you got to have a microphone, okay? It's not worthy of me even repeating. Let's get to some real questions here. Next. Okay. I'm new here and want to eventually learn Python. Until then, though, does this group ever work on microcontrollers or languages like Arduinos and C++? We have such a plethora of topics to talk about at IndyPy, but I would love for you to submit your topic idea. If actually, this is a great way to give a talk. If you don't know anything about it, do a bunch of research to give a talk, and now you'll know a bunch of stuff about it, and you can also enlighten others who are in the room. And those are great ways to give talks at a meetup like this. And those are fully valid topics for IndyPy, because it's IndyPy or Python bridges so many different areas, from web dev to embedded to, hold on, you gotta grab the microphone here.
Why aren't you going to use Python for that microcontroller and use CircuitPython instead of C++?
That's true. I guess that's where my brain went, was like use Python for this kind of thing anyway, right?
Nothing helps learning like a deadline to give a talk.
That's true. Very, very true. I would agree with that.
And the fear of embarrassment.
I don't know anything about that, actually. That's actually, yeah, that's probably related to the next question up here is where do you get good disco ball pants? I don't think they make them anymore, but if you go to betabrand.com, you used to find disco wear. Is the nib none? So Glenn in the room is confirmed, because I was wearing at PyCon my smoking jacket from the same company, and we could not find it on betabrand.com. He found it on some third-party site and bought one. So I don't know where you're going to find good disco ball pants. They're limited edition, and I got my own pair. So you'll have to find yours. Supply chain issues, yes. Now, that previous question about kind of embedded stuff, we used to do Open Tech Study Hall with the Dershams and a couple others. I don't know where Josh is at. We roped a youngin'. Yeah, he moved. Yeah, so we actually had a IndyPy attendee, a youngin'. We talked into organizing our Open Tech Study Hall. And so that was one where we got together and literally brought pieces of hardware, and everyone kind of like hacked on projects and drank beer and ate pizza. And that was fun. I don't know how you do that virtually, because there was a lot of interactivity between the participants who were in here. So I'd recommend that you find a group locally and do those kinds of things where you can, hack on something. If you got like a makerspace or a co-working space where people are doing kind of hacking like that, that's a good thing to do there.
In Portland, the Portland Pdx Meetup, they have the regular meetup, then they have like a workshop night. Bring your projects, bring the stuff you're stuck on, and we'll help. We'll just work together to get people unstuck. Like, hey, I'm stuck on this Django ORM thing. Someone else like, hey, I know Django ORM. Let me help you.
Yeah, if folks wanted to organize an alternate, like we're on the second Tuesday, if someone want to do like the fourth Tuesday for a hack workshop night like that. I mean, IndyPy is not just my platform, it's for everybody, for the community. So if someone stood up and said they wanted to do that, I'd obviously be in support of that kind of thing. There's a couple of really important questions coming up, especially the second one on the screen. Next one though is there anything unique or interesting that you can only do with the hybrid meetup that you couldn't do with a fully in-person or virtual? I don't know. I think the opportunity is that a truly hybrid meeting is tricky to do. And I don't know if there's anything that's more specific that you.
I can interject there.
What's that, David?
I can interject. I can come because if it was only
I think like the question was as opposed to fully virtual. Like you can come to fully virtual, but at least now you're here in the room with us, I guess, in the hybrid space. So I tried to put on the screen while you guys were networking, like video of the room, so you could see there was like other activity going on. I don't think you can do that, just one versus the other. I do agree with the next question, which is less talk, more cake. I don't know if Michael, if you have any final closing questions or things you would want to answer.
I'll take with more cake. That sounds good.
Yeah.
I could throw in something really quickly to this hybrid thing. Is there's some interesting tools that are coming up now. You have tools that will do real-time translation to other languages, so you could reach people who don't necessarily speak English really well. Or there's also, I want the cake. I want a piece of cake. That looks fantastic. And then the other one is there's tools like otter.ai, where you can plug it into your Zoom and it'll take notes and like try to highlight important topics out of there. And so you might be able to document your meeting, not just record a transcript, but do a little bit more potentially. I'm not sure that's a compelling reason, but I think possibly the live language translation maybe.
That would be interesting. The fact that in the room they could be translated, because we could be using Otter right now to transcribe everything that's going on in the room too. So,
the trick is, Calvin, is like because we're facilitating this through microphones, both in the room and virtually, like it'll get captured properly, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Back to the audio is a very important aspect of all this. All right, so we do have cake for tonight's participants who are in there. I don't know how to send cake through the camera. I tried just there a second ago, but all the best you could do is see it. You couldn't even smell it.
Was it fungible or non-fungible, that cake picture?
Is that a non-fungible cake? I don't know. Seems like it is.
I don't want to share it now. Non-fungible.
All right. So I want to thank Michael so much for being with us tonight at IndyPy and our 15th anniversary. Everybody give a big round of applause. There's a huge round of applause going on here in the room. One more thing.
Thank you, everyone.